In this video, we will prove that square root 2 is an irrational number. Now coming towards its proof, suppose that square root 2 is a rational number. We have to prove that square root 2 is an irrational number. But on contrary, we suppose that it is a rational number, since we want to prove it by contradiction method. So that it can be written in the form P by Q, where P and Q belong to set of integers and Q is not equal to 0. As we already know that every rational number can be written in the form P by Q such that P and Q are integers and Q is not equal to 0. So we can write square root 2 equal to P divided by Q, where P and Q belong to set of integers and Q is not equal to 0. Suppose further that P by Q is in its lowest form. It means that we cannot further simplify this fraction. It is in its lowest form. Now by squaring both sides of this equation, we get square root 2 whole square equal to P by Q whole square. It can also be written as 2 equal to P square divided by Q square. Now by multiplying both sides by Q square, we get 2Q square is equal to P square. Let it be named as equation number 1. We can also write it as P square is equal to 2Q square. P square is equal to 2Q square means that P square is multiple of 2. If P square is multiple of 2, it means that P square is an even number, since every multiple of 2 is an even number. So we can write it as P square is an even number. Which implies that P multiplied by P is also an even number. Since P square can also be written as P multiplied by P. Product of two numbers is even when both of them are even or one of them is odd and other is even. Here in this case P is multiplied by itself and the product is even, so we can say that P is an even number. then it can be written as P is equal to 2m. Let it be named as equation number 2. If P is an even number, then it can be written as a multiple of 2. Now by using value of P from equation 2 in equation 1, we get 2q square is equal to 2m whole square, which can also be written as 2q square equal to 4m square. Now by dividing both sides by 2, we can write it as q square is equal to 2m square. Let it be named as equation number 3. Q square is equal to 2m square means that q square is multiple of 2. If q square is multiple of 2, it means that q square is an even number. So we can write q square is an even number. From here we can also write as q multiplied by q is also an even number. Since q square can be written as q multiplied by q. Product of two numbers can only be even if both of the numbers are even or one of them is odd and the other is even. In this case, q is multiplied by q itself, so we can say that q is an even number. Then we can write it as q is equal to 2n. Let it be named as equation number 4. Since q is an even number, so it can be written as multiple of 2. Now by dividing equation 2 by equation 4, we can write P divided by Q is equal to 2m divided by 2n. Here we can cancel 2, but in the beginning we suppose that P by Q is in its lowest form and cannot be further simplified. So this contradicts our supposition that P by Q is in its lowest form. Therefore, square root 2 is not a rational number. If square root 2 is not a rational number, then it is an irrational number. Hence, we have proved that square root 2 is an irrational number.